With Russiagate blowing the top off of all these emails that are come to light now that they've unclassified a bunch of information, I think that they're missing some of the people and the bodies that are left in the wake. I've looked into 5 men. They're all gone, all over one election and one political revolution that was never allowed to happen. Seth Rich, Shawn Lucas, Joe Montana, John Ashe, and Victor Thorne all died mysteriously in the months leading up to one of the most controversial elections in modern American history back in 2016. But what if their deaths weren't just coincidences? What if they were conducted in a larger cover up involving WikiLeaks, the DNC, and the sabotage of Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign? And now, newly unclassified documents pushed into the open thanks to Tulsi Gabbard may shine like fresh light on a whole story that the media has been buried from a long time ago. Hey guys, it's Delana. Today I'm diving deep into just a small portion of the Clinton body count, just the ones around the 2016 election and Russiagate emails. So, who were these guys that were kind of all linked in part of this 2016 DNC campaign? So, the first one I want to start with is his name is Seth Rich. This was kind of the biggest story. And this one, they tried to really say, oh, it's just a conspiracy. It's just conspiracy. But now that the documents have been released and heavily redacted, but they are there. And I will link them down in the show notes of all the FBI files. But there really was concern that there's something went wrong here. So this guy, he was only 27 years old. He died on July 10th, 2016. He was shot in the back in Washington, D.C. Nothing was stolen. Not his watch, not his phone, wallet, nothing was touched. Police called it a botched robbery, but nothing was robbed. WikiLeaks hinted the source. They might be the source, but Julian Assange himself offered a reward for information on this murder. So he did offer $20,000. He sent this tweet out. But the thing with this tweet is that they were saying, the DNC was saying, yeah, he's really getting information from Russia. So this is just to kind of get everybody off the track and start thinking it's this guy. But I think it really was this Seth Rich guy at the end of the day. And that's what it's showing from all the new FBI files that have been released. And then even Russia came out with this a year later. This was in May 2017. But WikiLeaks informer Seth Rich murdered in U.S., but MSM was so busy accusing Russia hackers to take notice. So that was Russia's response to that as well. And the next one is Shawn Lucas. He died on August 2nd, 2016. He was a process server who served the DNC with a class action lawsuit on behalf of Bernie Sanders supporters, alleging fraud and corruption in the primaries. He was found dead in his bathroom a month later. He was apparently a really big fan of Bernie Sanders, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later and how it affected him. But Bernie Sanders had a large base that just absolutely loved him. And with these emails coming out, from the emails, the ones that were leaked by Seth Rich, you could see that the Clintons were working their way in and trying to move things around from within. And that was one of the things that they were really, the whole DNC, that whole Bernie Sanders court was very, very upset about. So this guy was found dead in his bathroom a month later after he served them. So he served them on July 4th. And so a month later, he was dead in his bathroom. Official cause, adverse drug reaction. But skeptics question the timing, especially since the DNC lawyers were trying to get the case dismissed around the same time. So again, this is this video right here I'm going to show you went viral at the time when he died. So there is a connection here, who he's going to serve it to. So
I'm just with the DNC upstairs.
With the DNC?
Yes.
All right. Well, this is going to be service to the DNC.
Okay.
And this is for Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Perfect.
You guys have been served.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in court. Guys, thanks so much for everything. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Weekend. Have court with us.
All right.
That was probably the most gratifying thing I've ever done.
You ever done? Let's close this tree real quick. Let's do it. So let me see. So here it is, people. You guys were able to witness that. It is Democratic.
So that was Shawn Lucas there, and that's when he served them. Like I said, he was a big supporter of Bernie Sanders, and when they did do the toxicology results, he did have, I think one of the drugs was fentanyl, and his girlfriend was the one that found him at the time, and she said that he never did drugs. So it was very odd that he was found dead a month later in his apartment with an overdose of a cocktail of drugs. So that's Shawn Lucas, and he was only 38 years old. It said Seth Rich was 27. The next one here is, this was announced on August 2nd. DNC lawsuit processor served Shawn Lucas dead. And so that video that I just showed you was the viral video. And the next one is Joe Montana, and he died July 25th, 2016. So he is the chief of staff to the DNC chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So she was the one that he was serving, Shawn Lucas was serving, and the lady that came down to accept the papers was her assistant. So he worked for her, and apparently she resigned. So he was chief of staff to her right before she ended up resigning, and she was a longtime Clinton ally. He reportedly died of a heart attack on July 25th, 2016, just as the Democratic National Convention kicked off. He was only 47 years old and had no prior heart conditions on record. And just a side note here, too, is he was also Tim Keene's aide. And so in 2016, Hillary had actually picked Tim Keene to be her VP. So it was her VP's pick's top aide that died of a mysterious heart attack in the middle or at the end of July 2016. And he had no prior health issues. The next one, and so here's another picture of him with Keene. And U.S. Senator Tim Keene, the Democratic candidate for vice president, held back tears as he paid tribute to his Filipino-American staffer, Joe Jose Montano, yesterday. So that was at the DNC in Philadelphia. So he was Keene's Northern Virginia regional representative, died on Monday, July 5th. He was just 47. Very sad. And the next one is John Ashe, and he died on June 22nd, 2016. So he is a former UN General Assembly president set to testify in a corruption trial involving Chinese donor Ning Lapsang, a donor with links to the Clintons. Ashe reportedly died when a barbell crushed his throat just days before testifying. Local police initially said he had a heart attack, then changed the story. So here, again, UN official John Ashe killed the day before he is set to testify against Hillary Clinton. This is sort of misleading, and they tried to fact check this. And he wasn't testifying against Hillary Clinton. He was testifying against the company that was giving her so much money for her campaign. So that's what he was going up against. And then their argument was, oh, he wasn't going up against Hillary Clinton, but he was going up against the company, Ning Lapsang, who was one of her biggest supporter in the 2016 election. And I think it was called Hillary Victory Fund is what she called it. And he was a big supporter of that company that he was testifying against. So the next one here is, this guy is an author. So Victor Thorne, he died on August 1st, 2016. He was an anti-government conspiracy theorist and author of 3 books accusing the Clintons of involvement in a murder and drug trafficking. He died in July 2016, or sorry, it was August 1st, 2016, from a self-inflicted gunshot. Proponents of this conspiracy in theory included political consultant Roger Stone, who's a big advocate of Trump. He claimed that Thomas had been murdered for his attacks on the Clintons. Both Thorne's family and American Free Press, a right-wing newspaper that Thorne worked for, reported that he had been killed, and they called it a suicide. So that brings us to Assad. So in July 2016, right around the time of these deaths, WikiLeaks released the now infamous DNC email leaks. These emails showed the Democratic Party actively undermining Bernie Sanders' campaign in favor of Hillary Clinton. They coordinated media coverage, debate questions, and fundraising schemes. The fallout was immediate. DNC chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. But how did WikiLeaks get these emails? According to the official narratives, it was the Russian hackers, but Assange never confirmed that. In fact, when asked directly about Seth Rich, he made cryptic statements that fueled speculation. Our sources face serious risks. That's why we don't confirm nor deny, but others have suggested that it could have been a DNC insider. And from all accounts that I saw from all the FBI coverage that it had from the unclassified documents, it does very much seem pointing within the DNC. So Hassan, again, offered the $20,000 reward for information on Rich's murder. But why would he do that unless Seth Rich was important to WikiLeaks? So how did this affect Bernie Sanders? And I think that's why it comes down to it being happening from the inside because of the movement that Bernie Sanders was trying to create. So here is a lot of his supporters here. And they also said, yeah, so there's a trying to get him to shut up and trying to get him not to talk. That was very telling within the DNC. So Bernie Sanders had built a movement, millions of small donors, a populist message that threatened the establishment, but the DNC, which was supposed to be neutral, was working against him from the inside. Yeah. So emails revealed DNC officials mocking Bernie's religion, discussing ways to undercut his campaign, and funneling donor money through Shady Victory Fund, and that was the Hillary Victory Fund, operations that heavily favored Clinton. After the leaks, Bernie supporters were furious. Some delegates walked out of the convention. Chants of DNC rigged echo through the arena. And yet Bernie did what most didn't expect. He endorsed Clinton. Some say he was pressured. Some say he was silenced. Some say he just saw the writing on the wall. And think he couldn't go up against the Clintons. But what happened to that movement? How many young voters lost faith in the system after watching it crush the first real populist candidate in decades? So then we come to Tulsi Gabbard, and again, Clinton ends up on top. So Tulsi Gabbard, fast forward to 2025. She was a former congressional woman and 2020 presidential candidate, had been pushing for transparency and declassification on key issues, from big pharma to deep state. And recently, a new set of unclassified documents forced open by her efforts may give fresh light to what happened back in the 2016 election. Among them, internal DHS communications on Seth Rich's murder, censored FBI documents that now show Rich was under investigation, an internal memo noting concerns that the WikiLeaks drop came from a disgruntled DNC insider rather than foreign actors. I will heavily link those very heavily redacted files at the end of this. It's a very interesting read. There's a lot of paperwork there, but it goes into Mueller and everything else, the Steele dossier, but there's a lot centering around Seth Rich. One of the lines reads, "If attribution is proven to be internal, we lose the narrative." There are also DOJ emails discussing whether to publicly address the deaths of DNC-connected individuals and ultimately deciding it would raise more questions than answered. Tulsi Gabbard's fight to bring these documents to light is reigniting public debate. What did the U.S. government know about these deaths, and why was the press being silent for so many decades? You really had to do a deep dive to find these things. Like, it's there, but you really have to, once you dive into the web, you can find your way through, but it is there. They have it pretty buried. So let's be honest. Did these people die? If this was actually tied to the Trump campaign, if we just changed Clinton to Trump and used the same narrative, we would never hear the end of it. Or if you took Trump in way of Biden, like if Trump's son had a laptop that had all that crap on it, we would never hear the end of it. But the Democrats seem to be getting away with a lot more. I think that they have more of the media on their side. The mainstream outlets dismiss the deaths as conspiracy theories, even though the timing, the connections, and the mounting questions never really got answers. So do we have to ask ourselves why Bernie Sanders was robbed a nomination? What whistleblowers were silenced? And was WikiLeaks fed internal information, not hacked? And is the truth still being buried to protect the political elite? And I would say yes. And I think that this is all coming amongst the Jeffrey Epstein files. And I think that one of the reasons that they're pushing this right now as well is because they want people to detract from the Epstein files, because people are talking about this now and not still diving deep into Jeffrey Epstein. It's like the more we dig, the more this looks like the biggest political scandal of the 21st century, not because of what we know, but because of what we're still not allowed to say. If you found this video wide opening and you kind of feel like me, I think that there is too many connections. How does they have 5 deaths all around them within the 26 election? Within 3 months, there's 5 people that were directly linked to them gone. It was very interesting. So, guys, let me know what you guys think. Was this just a coincidence? Is there more? I do think that the Russiagate, obviously, it's a big problem. The emails getting leaked, but I think what people are really forgetting is how many bodies are in the wake. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted this video. I think we can't forget those that, kind of they got lost in the shuffle of the DNC and didn't come out very well. So anyways, please like, subscribe, share, and let me know your thoughts. Are we just going crazy about this, or is there too many bodies in the wake to ignore it anymore? Anyways, thanks guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.